want to make for those veterans out there that are listening in. We appreciate what you do for our country, and we're thankful for you every day. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about Hub88, if I can get it up here. Okay, here we go. So Hub88 was formed in 2018 here in Naperville. And we're interested in 5G, and we ended up at Nokia here in Naperville. So our mission is to ignite the next wave of innovation by accelerating the use of technologies that shape how we work, live, and learn. So what we want to do is attract entrepreneurs and startup companies and other businesses in the technology area. So we offer business development and commercialization resources that can include coaching and mentoring assistance on the business and on the technology. We have programs like today where we connect the community with subject matter experts. We're also in our mission very involved in education through tech talks like this, but also with student programs. We've done STEM programs and camps for students. So we launched in 2018. We received our 501c3 not-for-profit in July of 2019. We are fully supported and run by all volunteers, not just our board, but which is Mark Hinch, Phil Hoffman, Matt O'Sullivan, and myself. But we have 30 advisory board members as well that support us in one way or another, mentoring to some of our members, helping us to put on tech talks and other areas of our programs and initiatives. So Hub88 has a great collaboration with Nokia. So we have a use agreement that allows us to use their facility. That was until February of this year. We will get back to Nokia facility at some point, as we're all of us are going through this sad situation with the pandemic. This year, a couple months ago, we announced the Drone Interest Group Initiative. You may have heard about that. It's something that we looked at as an opportunity to put together a community or an ecosystem of those involved in drone flying, drone software, hardware, et cetera. And that group has grown to 50 people already in the last 2 months. We also have partnered with an organization out of Dallas, Texas. They're putting on a drone curriculum education panel or conference this Saturday, and we've invited educators throughout the country to join in on that to help build programs in high schools and middle schools on drones. I'll mention one other thing too. We have the Hub88 communication lab at Nokia. This is one where, working with Nokia, we have the hardware, software, and ability to test devices and software programs, et cetera, on 5G. So you can see listed here the different type of applications that can be tested. So if you have an interest in being a member and getting coaching, mentoring, or connecting with 5G, please let us know. you can contact us at hello@hub88.org. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lori Swanson, who is our leader of our program initiative. And thank you very much, all, and appreciate your joining us today. Lori.
Thanks, Ken. Hi, everyone. Lori here. And yes, I am on the advisory board and am continuing to help put together these fascinating programs every month, our Tech Talks. So just before we get into this evening's event, I want to briefly tell you what's coming up. So in December, we're always this second Wednesday of every month. So on December 9th, we're going to have our holiday wrap up, but not just talking about Hub 88 in 2020. And, you know, we have a lot of things that Ken just mentioned, and we'll have the different, like the drone interest group, we'll talk a little bit more about what's happening there, and you'll learn some more about the camps that we have going on, and some that we're talking about putting together for younger technologists, boys and girls. So that's exciting. But we have the programming committee and myself are putting together some surprises like trivia and just holiday fun. So last year we had a really nice time when we went out all together and got a chance to just, you know, raise a glass. Because we can't do that this year, we've been thinking about ways in which we can still bring everyone together, have some fun, and you know, toast the end of 2020, I guess, is really what we're looking forward to doing. So that is December. And then January, we've already got, I'm so excited. I literally am getting goosebumps right now because I'm so excited about this topic. It's what I'm calling living on the edge of edge computing. So it's about edge computing. And we've got a great panel that we're already assembling. Again, the second Wednesday, 5 to 6:30, you can go to Eventbrite, you can sign up there. One other thing I did want to mention is that we have a new segment that we're going to be bringing into the Tech Talks called New Tech Spotlight. And we're going to kick that off in December. And that's just a brief 5 to 10 minutes where someone can have the opportunity to talk about their tech startup or a new tech product launch that they have. So if you're interested in doing that, you can email hello@hub88.org, and they'll make sure to forward me that information, and we can talk and see how that might fit into the calendar for 2021. Some logistics for this evening. We will be, their chat is available. So absolutely, if you have questions as we go through, you can put your questions in chat, and Brenna, who I'll be introducing shortly, will take those questions. I'll also be helping out with that. So, and you'll have a chance after the panel talks about the topic sort of generally and in some specifics initially, we'll open it up for your questions at that point as well. Finally, let me just acknowledge Don Deloche and Rocket Wagon Venture Studios, who are sponsoring this event this evening. So thank you, Don. He's so connected. He's just crazy. Any topic that I dream up, I know I can reach out to Don, and he'll know someone that can talk, with some level of education and expertise about it. So thank you, Don, for sponsoring. If you are interested in sponsoring one of our events, also reach out through hello@hub88.org, and we will look into that. And now it's my pleasure to introduce our moderator this evening, Brenna Berman. So Brenna is the CEO and founder of CityTech. CityTech is a nonprofit, member-driven consortium that is really, as they describe it, an urban solution accelerator that tackles problems that are too big for any one organization to solve alone. So they will create cross-sectional teams and help to develop solutions that are facing urban global urban, challenges that are occurring, and they'll come in and help to use emerging tech like IoT sensing, networks, advanced analytics, as well as urban design to help create scalable and marketable solutions. Or as I like to say, she's helping our cities be more efficient and effective. So with tech. Prior to City Tech, Brenna was the CIO for the city of Chicago under Mayor Rahm Emanuel, and she worked for 11 years for IBM Global Solutions, leading their health and human services practice prior to that. She grew up on the East Coast, but we were lucky to have her come to Chicago and attend the University of Chicago. She currently resides in Dallas with her 2 sons. And when I asked her what she does for fun, she, it's the answer everyone has. Pre-COVID, she loved to travel. Post-COVID, baking. So specific cooking, but really quite a focus on pastries. So, I don't know what pastries we might have in our future or what recipes, but I'll be looking to Brenna for that. So thank you, Brenna, for moderating today's event, and I'll let you take it from here.
Thanks, Lori. I really appreciate that great introduction. When I hear it laid out that way, I feel like I should have exercising to that list to balance out the amount of pastry that I'm cooking and eating these days. Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be here tonight and to lead this panel around such an exciting topic. Construction is a fascinating industry that is being disrupted by a number of forces, and we couldn't be more honored to have such an interesting panel to talk to us about how the industry is changing, how technology is bringing about that disruption, and the role that IoT is playing in all of those changes. So I really think it's best just to sort of jump right in and meet those panelists and get the conversation going. We'll let them go at things for a while and then open the floor up for questions. But if you do have some along the way, please put those in the chat, as Lori said, and we'll work those in as we go. And I'll be coming back out to sort of remind you about those questions at about 5:45 or so. So please do be thinking about the questions you have for this panel. So let's meet the panel now. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about their companies, their role there, and what they feel are the biggest challenges facing the construction industry today. And Flora, if I could ask you to go first, I would really appreciate that. So why don't you jump right in?
Thanks. Hello, everybody. My name is Flora Liu, and I work for a company called VIATechnik. VIATechnik is a VDC consulting service company and aims to transform the analog world of design and construction into digital platform. And eventually we want to help solving the world's housing problem. I'm very excited to be here today with other panelists and talk about construction technology. That's what I do every day. So construction is a $12 trillion industry and accounting for almost 13% of the global GDP. So while construction historically invested very little in new technology, nowadays appears to be the sector that is on the verge of major disruptive changes. So the biggest challenge, in my opinion, that facing construction and also for the construction technology adoption will be rationalization and standardization, because complex and non-standard process must be rationalized across projects, and rationalization is what helps driving efficiency. So we can talk about that later in more detail in the following questions. But again, I'm very excited to be joining you guys in this panel.
Great, thank you, Flora. Those are two really interesting challenges, that translation from analog to digital, and then how we get there with some sort of standardization. We'll definitely come back to those points. So Rafael, why don't we turn over to you?
Hi, thank you. Thanks, Franca. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me here. Really a pleasure. I've been working with construction for over 20 years. I work at Bosch, the German company. And since the past 4 years, I was on the global innovation team for construction technology. And now recently, I'm working on a startup which we created internally that focused specifically on design and construction, but focused on lean collaboration. So lean definitely something that is changing the industry as well. So we want to digitize and make process much better. Biggest challenge for me, definitely, I've been working so much with the industry, and as Flora put it, like it's the largest industry, but how come it can be the least digitized one? And definitely you see a lot of, for me, is the complexity. The chain of construction, each project is different with so many different trade partners, different sites, different owners. So the chain of construction is definitely, for me, the biggest challenge, and how can we solve that? We're definitely going to touch into many different technologies. I think on the design phase, pretty much advanced already, but how can we solve and go through this barrier of adoption on the construction phase as well? So that's where we focus, and I think that's we definitely are here to discuss.
Great. Well, thanks for that starting point, Rafael.
Thank you.
And last but never least, Damon Ranieri.
Hi there. Yep, I'm Damon Ranieri. I'm with Leopardo Companies here out of Chicago. We've been a self-performing general contractor since 1977. We are in just about every market there is, except for data centers. We're currently a $400 million construction firm. My role there is I'm the director of virtual design and construction. I have a group that we say we build the models, and we expect our project teams to use them. So that's kind of our function. We touch every part of the business from interviewing and pre-construction all the way to quality control. So we get a taste of every market, every part of the project. It's pretty exciting, and with everything that's going on with construction tech, you know, we're never bored. We're never bored. So the question was, what is the biggest challenge presently with construction? There's always challenges, but right now with COVID, you know, is the pipeline. What you know, construction projects typically go from 6 months to 2 years, right? So when COVID started, we were lucky. We had a lot of work going on. Construction in Illinois was essential, so we got to keep building it. But as the pandemic raged on, you know, people were a little more reluctant to actually fund, you know, new projects. They were happy to keep on thinking about them, but to actually get them going, you need somebody to finance them. So, you know, just that uncertainty as to which projects are actually going to go and how many of them and all that kind of stuff that helps us plan our future. The other problem that, you know, we are running into with some of our more near-term opportunities is price stability. You know, one day lumber is off the charts, and the next day, you know, they can't give enough of it away, and then, you know, copper's going through the roof. So we can't. My group, the technology group, can't do much to help with the price stability, unfortunately, but we can help quite a bit with the pipeline part. We've been just going crazy, putting in proposals and doing pre-con with clients, and it's been exciting to see, you know, kind of putting us through our paces and see what we're capable of. So that's been a lot of fun.
Great. Thanks, Damon. Well, I'd love to start by sort of setting a foundation around what technologies are really playing a role in construction today, where you're seeing that disruption come from. So I'd love to take some time to talk to each of you about, you know, specifically what technologies that you see sort of today or in the near future changing construction. So Flora, I'm going to kind of go down the line on this one. We won't do that with every question, but which technologies are sort of on your list as your favorites for making an impact on the industry today?
That's a really good question. And I think I am the lucky one because I work for a VDC consulting firm. So actually dealing with different type of technology, it's literally my day-to-day work. I got to test out a different like new tech with a different firm and try to implement those in their projects. The basic standard is what we call VDC, is what Damon was working on, virtual design and construction. And we also work on BIM as a BIM technology, like BIM, building information modeling. That's our day-to-day stuff. We convert what's going to be built in the field into a 3D digital world so everybody can see what's going to be built in the field. So I do believe in construction industry, everybody like seeing is believing is very, very important. It's easy to convince people, easy to make people believe that there are going to be great things being built in the field and help resolving a lot of design and construction issues ahead of time before the construction really starts and avoid a lot of rework. But I would say there are a lot more interesting new technology coming up. So for example, drones equipped with sensors and virtual reality are replacing the expensive aerial photography. Robots together right now are working with humans, eliminating repetitive and potential dangerous activities. There are bricklaying robots do the job more rapidly and safely than human beings are doing right now. Also, we start seeing actually real 3D printed buildings, which I had a pleasure to work with. We actually did a lot of laser scanning, 3D modeling, so they can be 3D printed out to swap out in the field. And I guess at the same time, AI is also play in construction as well. So it's starting anticipating and deflecting risk that would never been seem possible for a human being. So I would just say like construction is really touching every aspect as technology that you've been seeing in other industry. And all of these are very, very exciting and what we call like disruptive.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a great list. So Rafael, more from the platform perspective where you've been working inside Bosch and the startup you've been leading, which technologies are you seeing from that perspective having the most impact?
Yeah, I agree with Flora as well. There's a lot, but what I focus is, I think that there's a lot of frontier technology that we're going to start seeing it probably within, I would say, that's my guess here, in the next 3 to 5 years. Then we're going to start seeing more and more of those frontier technology. But for me, right now, for me, is data, as you said, and that comes to platforms. I think that's the most important thing that which are changing today. And construction, if you go to a job site, on the construction site, you see a massive amount of data that's being produced over there. So everywhere, there's so much data in construction, but unfortunately, this data is not being used. There's a lot of, I would say this, it's not unified, the structure, we're not utilizing this data. And data comes with, as you mentioned before, Brenna, like the IoT, sensors. First of all, we need to have a unified, instead of taking these data silos that is being generating, or a lot of things are not even collecting data in construction. That's the most important thing. I think it needs to be unified. And then this data needs to be translated into something that's useful. So then we can understand really where the real problems are, the pain points, and then to streamline to a better process, to reduce waste, and to deliver projects on time and on budget. So construction is an industry that we all know that goes over time, over budget in almost every project. And I think with the right data, and not only one data, something that connects and have this data aggregated and translated into something that's useful not only for general contractor, but trade partners as well. That's the most important thing. And this will only grow.
Mm-hmm. So the importance is in the data platform to be able to make
exactly. Yeah, and that's what we've been doing with the startup that I work with, RefinemySite, and we work with CityTech on a great, and I highly recommend it here to everyone that is listening. If you don't know CityTech, we worked on a great project with them, and also utility companies here in Chicago, and general contractors as well, so we could see and use data and identify how much could we save on time and budget on a project, only by implementing and utilizing the right information and streamline the processes. So data, IoT, we need sensors as well to collect that as well, but also processes, it's extremely important.
And I think it's going to be important for us to come back after we talk to Damon to get his answer on this, but to come back and talk about the role of partners across these technology implementations, because, you know, even as a layperson who doesn't work in the construction field, I think you only need to look at a construction site to know there isn't one company who's managing that entire site. So the aspect of the partner ecosystem is really critical for us to talk about.
Yep.
So Damon, if you could go back to that original question that we've been speaking to from that general contractor perspective around those technologies that you're seeing the most impact from at this point.
Well, yeah, I've been doing this for about 20 years, and it's been really exciting in the last few years to see some of the stuff that we just struggled so much with early on. I'm thinking of like 3D building information modeling programs like Revit. You know, there's only a handful of architects and markets that aren't in some kind of 3D package now, which is tremendous. I mean, you have no idea the kind of belly aching that we we heard 15 years ago. So that's really exciting to see. You know, MEP coordination, which is like basically 3D modeling pipes and ducts and generators and all that kind of stuff. That is old hat now. I mean, and in fact, where we used to have subcontractors giving us ad services to participate in our MEP coordination process, now we're seeing subs telling us that if you don't do it, you're going to see an ad, because that means they're going to have to do more work within their own ranks in a 3D environment. So that's been great to see. The laser scanning, I mean, I did a little home research project here internally a few months ago. I mean, laser scanning has been around 30 years now. I mean, if you look back at manufacturing. So the tools, the accuracy, the softwares that go with it. I mean, we do photogrammetry. For those, this is a technology group, so I'm assuming I don't have to define that, but you know, basically what you see in Google Earth, you know, that's photogrammetry. I mean, we're doing that on just about every tenant fit out project to get going, to get started. It's the quickest way to capture reality. So seeing those things just become kind of a regular part of the day has been great. You know, that's on the what I would call the planning side, the planning and design side, and for us pre-con. But once you get out into the field, you know, we are seeing a lot more with drones. You know, in fact, even when we go out of state, there are a couple of companies that are like, it's like Uber for drones, where you can just call up, you know, put your location in, and someone will pick up the job. And even if you don't have a pilot out there, you can still get the site flown. So that's been great. Artificial intelligence. I think people forget that, you know, there's AI in a lot of things we use. We have a very simple, seemingly simple program that we use to manage our drawings with that automatically reads the sheet numbers and will in some cases read the sheet names and put tags on it and rename the file so it's got the right number. I know that seems trivial, but it's where we used to have to hire a document controller. We don't have that on our jobs anymore. I mean, that's a whole nother position that we don't budget for anymore because we have this. So that's been really exciting. And then as you get into and as Rafael alluded to, you know, as the general contractor, you know, we don't install all of this work. We're relying on our trade partners to do that. And you'll see a lot of them come equipped to the job site with some kind of either remote control, you know, unmanned device that will, you know, like for example, our own demolition forces will bring basically a remote control robot to do all the demo for concrete, so that we don't run the safety risk of big concrete slabs dropping on our people. So things like that are, these things are reliable. We can use them in the field. I think even 5 years ago, a lot of these things were interesting. They were fun to see at conferences. They were fun to get one of and see if you could do anything with it. But they were too unreliable. They were too clunky, and they were too hard to use to really do anything with in the field. And so it's been great to see a lot of this stuff kind of get the proper investment, get the investment it needs or needed, and really evolve to a point where we can actually start making money with it.
So if I could stay with you for a second, Damon, when you were doing your introduction, you mentioned challenges around, you were citing the uncertainty that COVID has brought into the industry, which is hopefully beyond the pale of the level of uncertainty you're usually managing in a construction project. But there's always a level of uncertainty, I'm sure. And you called out specifically the bid price stability that has increased because of COVID. Can you talk a little bit about how some of these new technologies and the new tools that they bring to the table are helping you manage the uncertainty of a construction project, whether that's specific to COVID or not? It would be interesting to understand how some of these tools are helping you manage that buffer around instability on a project.
When it comes to the pricing of the market, there isn't a ton any technology that we've got can do much about. But in terms of when we do like a cost model, we've been able to use some of our models, our 3D models, to quickly look at different value engineering proposals. What if we use this skin? Would it look just like the other skin? Can we, if we didn't have a tower crane, could we get this job built? If we, things like that, we're able to really explore, and not just, kind of pie in the sky. I mean, we can actually put, and we have done this, where we'll model up a site and with some cost savings measures in place, and put the client or put the subcontractor in like virtual reality lenses. Okay, you're there. Okay, you're coming into the site this way. Can you work like this? Is this going to work for you? Is this going to slow you down? And that's a big question. These guys will say yes to anything if they're going to win a job. But the better question is, is this going to make this job a 10-month job when it should be a 4-month job? So some of those technologies are helping in terms of, managing the instability of the market. The only thing we can do there is we have a procurement manager that tries to buy, either buy futures or buy in bulk, or, pair up different projects together to try to, manage our costs and stuff like that. But that's not really a technology angle there.
Yeah, but those other aspects of the cost of a project are really interesting. Flora, I would love to revisit the comments you made early on around the transition of the overall industry from analog to digital, and how one of the underpinnings of that transition is the standardization and rationalization across the industry. Can you talk a little bit more about how progress is being made there, what that relies on, and are you seeing that progress across your clients?
Yeah, for sure. So I think like Damon was mentioning before, a few years ago, you have to really force subcontractors to do BIM in the project. And now everybody just really voluntarily to participate participate in the BIM process. When I was saying the standardization, I meant as, you know, there are so many technology out there in the industry, and how do you pick and choose what's actually really work best for your company? And there are some technology that might work for your simple project, is like one project, maybe a small scale, maybe works in California, but not really works in Chicago. How do you make that adoption that's being readily available and being go as a standard go around your company? So like a lot of use case I would say is VR implementation. A few years ago, everybody thought VR is not really reliable, but right now VR is a technology we actually use on the day-to-day basis. For me, I use VR actually running my coordination meeting. So I want to making sure all the subcontractors, they have a VR headset, staying at home, they can actually wear that to see what's happening in the field. They can literally pointing to me, hey, this is not buildable in the field. We need to have more clearance to be built around this ductwork or this pipe. But that's not happening before. And how do you make this project being utilized in this project, being successfully transitioning to another project is really a challenging part of our day-to-day job. And then I see what happening with a lot of companies. They actually set up this pilot project, and they do a lot of using this small pilot project, set up a standard process and do top-down implementation for their other projects across the board. That has been very, very successful. So I would say, to answer your question, sure, I do see that's a challenge, but I do see the industry is making a great effort, even it's very, very painful, but they're making a great effort to making the standardization process, even like as simple as transitioning from AutoCAD to Revit, but people are like working on it.
And do you see that effort as consistent or even possible for large companies versus smaller ones?
Yeah, I do see that for a larger company. So different company, they have a different initiative, or they're like the stuff that they want to focus on, the pain points are very, very different. So you can see different large firms are go for different initiative, but they all working on their own thing. So right now I'm seeing a lot of firm, like big firm, they're actually separating their VDC department with technology innovation group. So it's like actually maybe what's Rafael's team is working on. They actually was in a big firm. They have a small startup team. They only doing they specifically targeting testing all the new technology out in the market, while rest of the group are focusing on what's already working. So the one team is spearheading about like testing new things, while rest of the team focusing on implementing what's already test to be successful in the pilot project. So they go concurrently. So that means you always getting the new successful story from your pilot project, or knowing what's working, what's not, and then just keep going forward, implementing new things.
I'd just like to add from Flora's here. You ask about the transition from analog to digital, and I think this is not something that it doesn't only happen in construction. That's everywhere.
Yep.
And I think that the most important thing is culture and management. That's super important as well. You need that. It is a different mindset that's required. The other one is adoption. Is it user-friendly readiness for the industry? Will people really adopt and use it? Or is this something that it's not ready yet for the industry to adopt, but it has to be really user-centric? So I think it has to be something that people definitely see value using it. And of course, the financial barriers. Those are the things that we need to probably it's a very broad and diverse. We have like extremely large general contractors and even trade contractors as well, but you have a lot of small ones. So how to make it, we don't want this to be used only for large ones. We want the whole industry to adopt technology. So you need to come through those barriers as well. It needs to be interesting as well. It happens for us, like we're seeing the technology we're now providing to the industry is not being adopted only by large GCs, but we've seen it also like small size general contractor, 30, 40 million construction volume year, and these guys are really adopting technologies now. So I wouldn't say this is only being adopted only by large general contractors. It's great to see that those small size GCs are also starting to look into it and adopting and start small projects, do some pilots, and then later on they start to implement it across all their projects. But I think culture is key to make change or to have the adoption to happen.
No, I think that's a really important point. Rafael, while we're speaking with you, I have a question that came in through the chat from Corey Stiles around this question of sort of data standardization and structures. Yeah. And he asked that as the UK is driving COBE as the data structure, do you see the US following suit with COBE? Sorry, yes, with COBE, or is there a different platform that's being used?
That's a great question. I don't think there will be one unique player on the platform space. I think there will be some big ones that will start to consolidate the data aggregation. But I think that there will be space for more players here. So I wouldn't say there'll be one. Go ahead, Damon.
Damon?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anybody knows what COBE is, but it was developed by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So it's an American thing, and there's a lot of apps and add-ins that will take your 3D building model and spit out a COBE file. COBE file is just a big spreadsheet, basically. It's a big database that comes out of the tail end of construction. But what we found is that there is not a huge appetite in the United States to have people use these data sets that come out of the construction process to run and operate their buildings. There's a tremendous amount of choice out there in terms of which products you can use that'll uptake a COBE file, but it's really just your very, very biggest clients. GSA will do that. Some of your institutional university campuses will do some of that. But I mean, even in terms of I've done $200 and $300 million towers, and we've brought in the building management team to show them here's a COBE file, or here's a BIM model, and here's what you can do with it. And, they kind of shrug their shoulders and go, yeah, we have got a pretty good spreadsheet we use. Leave it at that.
And Damon, and I can tell you, I've had a similar experience in an adjacent area around moving to lead management processes in municipal buildings. And where do you think that reluctance comes from? Is that one of these cultural barriers that Rafael and Flora were alluding to, or do you think there's something else behind that?
I mean, honestly, I love the approach. And I see Matt O'Sullivan talked about Agile, but the approach of let's think big, let's think out of the box, let's see how many things we can tie together. And you end up with a solution like IBM's Maximo, which is sort of for the big buildings, it's sort of like the Kleenex of building management. But if you've ever gotten in there and taken a look at this interface, it is you would spend months training yourself up to change a light bulb. I mean, I think that the beauty of a lot of the apps you get on, say, like an iPhone, is that they basically do one thing or two things. They're running on a tremendous amount of data, and there's a tremendous amount of AI behind them. But for the end user, there's not much there. It does this one thing. I order my hot dogs through this app, and that's and that's it. Now I'm done with it. And I think if you were to, and I think that the response we're getting from a lot of the building managers or building engineers that I just have to maintain the HVAC system, or I just have to maintain the electrical system, and there's 10 main things I've got to worry about and keep track of. If you could develop something that that gave them what they were looking for, you probably would see more uptake.
Yeah, I agree with you. It has to be extremely easy to use, but I think that comes to our point, is to understand exactly what the real pain points are and how can we solve it in a way. And again, we're not building a technology. It's different. They're completely different technologies, and you need to look into construction throughout the journey, from building, from starting or from design all the way through even operation, like even after you do the handoff, like when then you definitely need to look into what's your product and where is this technology being used and helpful, and then really build something. In our case, we're building something for people that are on the job site. So then we need it to be extremely easy to use. So it's not for those project managers, schedulers, people probably sitting in the office, but we're building something that has to be used for those on the job site. Drones, this goes to the job site. How people can operate, how can they use it? It has to be so, if you break that barrier of easy to use, that's the most important thing as well. And then you start getting your product, or you're gonna start seeing technology being adopted. But complexity, it's not gonna drive the higher the complexity, it's not gonna drive adoption.
And we're getting some comments in from the audience that is certainly agreeing with that concept, and a couple of more questions. But one more question from me, and then I'll pick up some of the ones in the chat as well.
Yeah.
I mean, this seems like a good point in our conversation to pick up something that I think all of you have alluded to as we've been talking through the other questions, which is the fact that there's a number of partners, actually can be a large number of partners engaged in any construction project, right? We might refer to it as a project as if it's one thing with one actor, but that's never the case. Even on the smallest project, adding a deck to my house, I think had 3 vendors involved in it just last summer. So, and so could you talk, and Rafael, why don't you kick this off, just because I think you might have mentioned it first in your introduction. I know that the project you and I worked on just last year actually had to do with using data and the platform beneath that to help the, specifically actually the utilities that had to connect into the site and the GC better communicate and make their communication more efficient and effective across the site.
Correct.
But can you talk a little bit about the importance of the partner ecosystem across the construction site and how data, et cetera, can help that ecosystem be more efficient and effective?
Yeah, I think if I could, in one word, would be the most important benefit we got by working with CityTech and partners was definitely the collaboration that we did. So as you mentioned, and everyone here is familiar with the construction, this is not only driven by one company. You have, in some projects, you have like even more than 30 different trade contractors working with you, with their teams as well. So it's a highly complex. So I think what really helped for us is the collaboration part of it. So everyone was collaborating, everyone was driven by the same goal, and I think communication really helped play. So it cannot, I think we couldn't do it without having CityTech supporting us, without having the trade partners on board as well, without having the general contractor. And we're constantly meeting to make sure that we're on the same page and everyone was doing their part. That doing it ourselves, like if Bosch would have to do it, I think it wouldn't be possible as well. It wouldn't be. So I think that's partnering increases the collaboration and the communication, and the result of it was that we really did a good job on getting everyone working within the same goal and using the technology and using the data. Like we're analyzing together the data to identify where could we do better, what was the problem here, and how could this data solve the problems that we've been through. And we're all looking to the same information, and we're all together discussing what could we do better as well. So highly recommended. Definitely, the more we partner, it's great.
Flora, could you pick up on that same topic a bit from the type of work that you do within the construction industry, the role that partners play, and how technology might be changing that?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm really glad you asked this question, and I also use a word about partner because, I work for a VDC consulting firm, and you cannot imagine how many meetings I went to, and people will refer me as the CAD service drafter or the modeler. And, that's different. Technically, that's not what I do, but there is like a stereotype of how people think about third-party consulting firm. And then I would say, like, I remember a few months ago, people were asking me, oh, what's the happiest moment when, like in your work? I said, when people start calling me, our VDC partner, instead of calling me a third-party drafter. So I really, really actually feel a lot about that question. So I really like that, partnership with a lot of subcontractors, because it makes us can really voice our concern and voice our opinion in terms for the decision making, how the projects can go moving forward. Because as a unique advantage of our third party consulting firm, we can actually we've seen a lot of projects. The highly turnover rate about our project give us a very unique advantage of like knowing what's work and what's not, and we can really voice our opinion in part of how GC and how subcontractor works. So I do think we can help making sure the project's moving more smoothly, and we can apply what works for other project into the current ongoing project, make sure everybody get a third eye be seen on the project. And also another perspective, I was actually talking with a subcontractor, electrical subcontractors the other day, and they're like, I really hate the idea when the general contractor just trying to shut down the idea. I just think we don't have enough manpower. They just shut down the idea. We cannot be part of the project. Why can't we partner with a third party to provide all the digital content? And why can't we partner with other people and still be part of the project? I say, you're right. That's where the partnership come from. When by yourself and you're small enough, you cannot be part of the airport project, big, the tech firm projects. But when you partner with somebody else as a joint venture, you're big enough to really make a contribution for your project. So I said, why don't people do more? So I feel like that's the idea we should really explore in the upcoming year. Try to establish other people as your partner instead of just your vendor. So to make a change.
Yeah. No, it's a different perspective. I mean, speaking from the tech industry, right? It's a very different perspective than when someone views you as the vendor versus your partner. And I think that has an impact on the outcomes of the work, no matter what industry you're in. So we've got a number of really interesting questions. So I'm going to stop asking my questions, which I could do all night, and switch over to the chat stream and pick a couple of these up. And I want to move a little bit away from direct technology for a second and talk about people for a minute, though we've certainly been picking up on culture, but talk about the talent pipeline. And I know, Damon, you've certainly talked about the team that you manage, so you probably think about this quite a bit. And I know Rafael and Flora, you also have people on your team, so you also probably think about the talent pipeline that you need. So Lori Swanson has asked, how do you, are you facing any challenges from a hiring and pipeline perspective in order to bring in the right talent to support the new technologies that you're using? And her follow-up to that is, do you have any recommendations for, younger folks that are looking at, potentially coming into the construction industry, where they'd find that best intersection between tech and construction?
Well, so I actually am an adjunct professor for Northwestern's engineering school, and I teach their computer integrated project delivery class also on Zoom. And and it's been great. Actually, one of my students actually started working for VIATechnik. So It's definitely a viable career. I'd like to say. I'd like to think. I'd say that the biggest challenge in terms of talking to young people is that we are both practitioners and technologists. So like I couldn't do my job if I didn't also know how foundations went together. Like I couldn't do my job if I didn't know how to use the 3D modeling navigation program, as well as understanding how an HVAC system works. I mean, I don't have to know how to install it, but I definitely have to have an understanding of, okay, we need to stop here and really, drill into this one area or this one piece of equipment or this one assembly. And I think that you could tell a young person to approach it from one direction or the other. A lot of architects, reach a kind of frustration point on the architecture side and eventually switch over to the technology side. And that ends up being a nice transition because they always have the building knowledge as well as being, enthusiasts in terms of technology. But it has been nice to see that the universities have put in place, if not full majors, but at least classes that kind of speak directly to this. I know Bradley University has part of their construction management program, a construction technology emphasis. So you could come out of that program with a emphasis in technology. Now, I think Flora's point is well taken. The young person is then at the in danger of being hired up as a drafter somewhere. There still is that, right? So making sure they've got the guidance and mentorship to kind of approach things as a professional service provider and not, a picker and a clicker.
Yeah, I like to point as well, like Laurie. So don't worry, that will be a job for you. Like either on a general contractor side, on the construction, there is a huge need for people that understand technology and construction. So this is, remember when we started, this is the largest industry and the least digitized one. So it's changing. So there will be a lot of opportunities for you. My recommendation would be, and you can choose like which direction you'd like to go. Like to go through the construction side, to be on the job side and implementing, executing technology on the construction side, or if you like to come on, speaking to myself and Flora here, you like to come to our side, which is mostly the developers creating, building, developing innovation that we're gonna service and give it to the construction industry to implement it and execute it. So either way, you can have my email or LinkedIn. Just we can connect and I'll help. Like I'll do anything that I can do to help you as well.
Yeah, for sure. I just quick point. So I like Damon was mentioning, he's professor of Northwestern. I actually was a guest lecturer for U of I for construction technology class, the BIM class as well. So I've been telling all my clients, hey, if you have an employee who has field knowledge and who knows how to do modeling, hold on to the person and don't give anybody. You have to treat them with respect because that's really rare species in the entire industry. So no matter, there are two routes for you. If you go join a technology firm like us, you are tech savvy, you just need to learn the field knowledge. So if you're joining like Damon's end, so you just start with construction, you just learn technology. So either way works, but a person with both field knowledge and with the technology knowledge, they will be very, very, very popular in the industry. So that's the conclusion. Yeah.
Can I ask a follow-on question since for me and not from the audience, but one of the things that I know we're focused on quite a bit in terms of talent pipeline from the tech industry in general, and I'm involved in a number of initiatives, in Chicago and some other places around us is the diversity of that pipeline, not just in terms of skill set, but especially in these areas where you're bringing two industries together, which seems to be just about everyone these days. But a lot of focus on the diversity of that pipeline because of the impact that that has on the output deliverable, whatever that is that you're building. Is that also a concern in this space and something that companies should be thinking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, sorry.
Oh, no worries. I was just gonna say, as a female in the construction industry, I do feel like diversity is very, very important. And to be honest, the technology are considered the advanced tools of a society. If 50% of the society are now working on it, so it just wouldn't move as fast as you think it is. That's just as simple as that. So, and I do feel like provide a very unique, like, opportunity for the female to really voice their opinion and to be part of the key decision making process. You know, I wouldn't be I'm not in advantage, like I'm not in the advantage position of like heavy lifting things in the field, but I can be the educator of technology to the field team to making sure their work's more efficient. So we can just play our different roles in the different things of the construction industry. Sorry, Damon.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. Yeah, I mean, I will say that I've been lucky. All the teams that I've run, we've really been lucky in terms of diversity. But Chicago in particular, and in construction, it is very homogenous. And I think companies like mine have to really pay attention to our hiring practices and making sure that we're looking and making sure that we have a diverse bench. And what's to Flora's point, there are a lot of people out there. Like I said, my teams have always been diverse, and it's been good. But you just really have to pay attention to it. It has to be something that is talked about openly and is top of mind.
That's really helpful.
Right.
Thank you. So 2 more questions from the audience. So this one coming from Charles Byers, asking about the concept of digital twin and if that'll eventually overtake COBie and BIM models. And I know we've talked a bit about COBie and BIM models and the transition from analog to digital. This one's probably more for Flora and Damon, given the work that they do, but is that something that you see coming down the pike?
Yes. I mean, I think there's a lot of legs in terms of digital twin. I think it's going to, BIM was always purported to be an evolution, sort of like a relay race, right? Like the architect does a model and then we give it to the contractor and then I give it to the owner, right? That hasn't played out. Definitely between architect, designer, and contractor, we definitely play nice in the sandbox. But when it comes to giving the owner what they need, we end up with gigabytes of data. And that's just, there's just more there than they would ever need. And I think that the process of putting the digital twin together will be a standalone process. That'll be I mean, I could think of a few service providers that do it. But they can take some of what you have to offer as a contractor at the end of a job, but generally speaking, they're gonna design a service bespoke to whatever their client is that they're serving.
Okay.
I think Rafael probably have a lot of insight on that as well. I'm actually curious to learn about your perspective, to be honest, for digital twin.
I'm not really involved exactly with digital twin. What we're doing, definitely we need to consider. That's the number one thing. The data that is being generated through, and now with the adoption of digital twin, what we're doing for sure, that's our big next step, is to integrate the data into our platform. So that comes again to partnership, and that comes again to be to use digital twin as well. So we need to get this data that it's already there. How can we get this and integrate it into our own platform as well? So in our case specifically, we're working very close with Autodesk.
So I want to move from digital twin to 3D printing, which was mentioned. I think Flora, you mentioned it a bit when we were talking about sort of the emergence of new technologies and kind of our top lists, each of our favorite lists. But the question is, what's the current or future use of 3D printing, not just in modeling, but in permanent structures? And where do we see that developing? And certainly open to the whole panel, but maybe Flora, starting with you.
I know actually right now, China did a lot of 3D printing. So some of their building just literally built up within a day. I think that was amazing. I had an opportunity to work on for one of the project to use the 3D printing. So the issue is it's entertainment park. And so they don't want to actually shut down the entertainment park just for this construction. So in order to save the time, and also in order to replicate what's there, not to changing the existing structure, they decided to use 3D printing. So what we did is we actually laser scanned the entire facade to keep the original design, and using 3ds Max to reconstruct this 3D facade and used for 3D printing. So there are a lot of nuances throughout the process. For example, how big your 3D printing pieces can be for a giant facade, right? You cannot definitely not, it can be one piece. So there has been a lot of coordination to make that happen. So after you did the model, how do you break that down to making sure your machine can actually literally take that piece and print that out and swap it out. So, but I would say the 3D printing being played in this is making sure the speed and also making sure you're not disappointing the people who are actually visiting your entertainment park. So in this situation, time is the key. So 3D printing really helping to have a fast turnaround. So one night, they just take down the entire facade, they stick back in the 3D printed piece, and the second day, the entertainment park still opened and everybody can enjoy that. So I think that's a really, really great, amazing use case about 3D printing. I didn't have a chance to try other things, but I think I can see this being really, really popular for the near future.
Yeah, I agree with you. It will take some time. I believe that is to have like a larger adoption in the industry. So then we're gonna start seeing much more about it. How long did it take? I don't know how long did it take, but it will take some time, I would say. And I remember just when still working at Bosch as well, we're working on a 3D printing project, and we really wanted to get into this business because it was the hype of 3D printer. Everyone will have a 3D printer at home, and people really thought that, and it's not easy to use a 3D printer as well, especially if you're never used a 3D printer before. So people thought that, oh, if something breaks at my home, I can 3D print it immediately here. I can download the file and print the part, and then I have it home. And this didn't happen, and still will take probably still some years. And that was back maybe 8 years ago. So it's been a long time. So I see construction going to the same direction. Is good that we have those use cases we see time to time on the media, those buildings that were 3D printed. But I think it's going to take some time as well. But it's great that we have this, but it will take some time.
I think it's going to really come down to the equipment. As it was mentioned earlier, right? Most 3D printers have a bed that's about 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet.
Yeah.
Maybe if you got a really expensive one, you got 2 feet by 2 feet. I mean, what can I do for a building that's 2 foot by 2 foot, right? So once I have a machine though, that's I could print something that's like 10 by 10. Now we're in business, but I don't see like a general contractor buying one of those. I think you would end up with a specialty subcontractor.
Yeah. That
would maybe have 4 or 5 of these things, and that would be their business. And it would, for us, it would come down to how long does it take, how much does it cost, how much space do you need on site? You know, I mean, those type of things. But once those machines, you know, become available, I think you'll definitely see that with people, because I think there's definitely a lot of potential there. You know, I mean, to make parts specific to the building right there on site would be, you know, there's some legs there.
Mhm.
So two more questions, and then we can head into our wrap up. So we have a question from AJ Rao, and it's a long one, so I'm going to read through it. You're a fast typer, AJ. So there's been so much talk around how the building construction industry needs to increase its productivity. And so his question is, how are new digital tools allowing you to effectively capture processes on the job site to decide how they can best be optimized? If so, are they able to capture varied factors for decision making, like weather predictions, material availability, et cetera? How granular can they get? Would it be possible to capture the value of new and innovative materials that aim to speed installation processes, et cetera?
Yeah. Can I start with that? I love the question, AJ.
Yeah, no, you're excited. Go for it, Rafael.
Love it. That's exactly what I'm working on. So coming back to the question, I think one is methods first as well, and culture. I'm a big fan. I don't know, Damon, if your GC is implementing lean methods or lean construction methods. So I'm really big fan of lean. And I think lean is one of the principles and methods that can help streamline better the overall construction project and the plans. What we do, and this is being extremely helpful, is how can we collaborate and know exactly, let the workers also be part of the scaling using a digital tool. So then we know exactly which trade will work in which working area specifically on a very specific day. You know how many workers will be working specifically by that trade on that area through a digital software as well. Through a software, you can also know how many people will be allocated. Also, if I plan to, let's say the electrical trade will be working on area B, third floor next week, you know, he knows exactly which tools will be needed, and through an asset tracking, you know, where the tools are, that tools will be in place as well. Can also integrate it, forecast, weather, material delivery, like everything can be streamlined using a digital solution. So and if something changes, like if something happens, you know that the drywall trade and the electrical trade, they need to be working together. If I don't get my job done immediately to a software, the trade that is impacting or is on my chain can be notified as well of something that happened on my scheduling, on my planning, and why I haven't completed. Then we know and discuss this on our daily huddle meetings or in our weekly meetings as well, or when we're doing more like a pool planning, 6-week look ahead planning as well. So I think software can be extremely helpful to streamline the whole process, knowing where people are, how many people are needed, where are the tools that you're gonna need to perform your job, which without it will make much harder to have all this data. So that's how data can be extremely helpful to know all this.
Yeah, I'll say. Oh, sorry.
No.
So I would say that a lot of the trade partners that we work with, especially the like HVAC and mechanical pipe fitters and stuff like that, are extremely sophisticated with what they do. But to your question, AJ, most of those innovations or productivity gains would really be within one subcontractor. Like it would be really tough for me as a general contractor to tell a sub like, oh, I took a bunch of data about, you know, what you guys were doing yesterday, and I've got some suggestions for how you guys can be quicker. They're going to tell me to go pound sand because this is their means and methods, and you know they've, you know, it just would be a non-starter. So, but where I do see, you know, where some of these things could help the job kind of overall would be in terms of on the macro level, how fast did contractor A get something done? What were the variables? Was there weather that day? Was there a material shortage? Was there a pandemic? And then, feeding that back into, and this is where I kind of feel like there might be a role for blockchain, where every project is feeding into some monster database. And then there's this, resource that we could then tap into when we go to price out the next job, in a certain location with a certain type of contractor with, a certain market. That would be tremendous. So that's where there's a very micro benefit to it, and then a macro. In the middle, you're still kind of working things old school. Even Rafael mentioned pull planning, which is a very effective approach, but it still is just putting 3M sticky notes on a wall. It's effective, but it's not yet jumped over the digital divide.
Oh, we do pull planning digital now. Yeah.
No, you do.
Yeah.
I guess I feel like AJ's question can almost be turning into something like, how do you measure the ROI of your new technology to some extent, right? That has been a challenge in the industry. And sometimes it's really hard to measure anything in the field, but think about from just to follow up with what Damon was saying, it's really hard for you to just look at how subcontractors doing things in the field, but you can make suggestions. For example, if a subcontractor is still using tape measure to figure out where they hang their hangers, that's definitely not efficient, right? So you still have a trimble points. You can literally put in from your model, have the trimble point that shoot out the points, and you automatically hang the hanger. And that's a really quick evaluation for you, because do the tape measure, it's going to take a day. Use triple point, it's going to take 15 minutes. So there is a very quick evaluation for you. But in terms for all the ROI, it really depends on what small things you want to measure. You can't just look at things in the big picture. Hey, let's talk about productivity. I don't think that's the measure, like that's approach to go. You have to really look at a specific thing. How can I do the small things faster? And then make that a win instead of just say, hey, let's talk about productivity. That's my thoughts on it.
Oh, thank you. Very helpful.
Yeah, that's great.
So we've reached the sort of last question. I'm gonna take the question I got from Ken Miller and combine it with the one I was gonna ask to wrap up the panel, because they're sort of similar. And I'm gonna ask each of the panelists, and give you a minute to think about it, to sort of think through, if there's a new technology not yet available in the marketplace that you think is needed to keep the industry going or keep it competitive, or some innovation out there that you're really excited to see that's sort of out on the 3 or 5 year horizon that you think is really going to change the game. So this is a little bit, in the transportation industry, right? Not so much anymore, but 10 years ago, we were all waiting for the flying car that the Jetsons used to show up in. So if you are looking ahead by 3 to 5 years, is there some technology that you think is really critical to keep the construction industry competitive and growing, or something that you're just, so excited about because it's going to change the game? And I'll ask for a volunteer if somebody's ready to go first.
Always happy to go first.
Thanks.
No problem. Right now, I'm really excited about. I know this group is all about 5G. I know you're connected with Nokia, but I'm really excited about 5G because most of what we've been talking about really is relegated to the office. Let's put it this way: we wire up every one of our sites. We get internet service at all the sites. But it probably takes a good 2 months to get the trailer set up and to get the demo guy to turn it back over to you, and work through all the bugs with the WAPs and everything else. And so by the time you've gotten through all that rigmarole, you just have one trailer on the site that's got internet, you know, where if I really want this stuff to sing, right, I need to be able to take my iPad where the work is being done and my, you know, maybe my virtual reality lenses or my augmented reality or my HoloLens, you know, be able to use the massive amount of data that I've got at available where I need it, which is where there is no internet right now. And you know, we work in urban sites, but even if we're building a tower, you know, if we get up and we build higher than the cell towers, right, our hotspots don't even work. So you're always, you know, even if you get some good amount of planning done at the job site trailer, right, it's about as far as it goes. You know, then, you know, beyond that, you're still, you know, whatever you could download to your iPad or whatever you could print out on drawings, that's what you're relegated to. So 5G and repeating 5G around the site, I just feel like is going to, you know, be that game changer that we were looking for. And so that, you know, all of these collaborative technologies can actually be in the hands of the people installing the work that could really change the productivity that we've been talking about.
That's great. Thank you. Flora, how about you? What's your most exciting innovation that you see coming around for 3 to 5 years out?
I think the most impressive thing recently I've seen, it's kind of in the market, but I don't think it's being used widely adopted yet. So it's design automation. So since we always do BIM coordination in every single job, why can't there is a design when it's done so everything is just magically coordinated? So I did see there is some web application in the market right now. They actually use machine learning to figure out existing configuration of the like all the warehouses, and they do the new design. Just put in a few parameters, they automatically design a new warehouse for you. And this is fully coordinated. All the drawings are populated. So they actually skip the design and the coordination phase, directly going to construction. I think that can be done for all the commercial building, for all the high rises. Think about you study all the high rises existing, you feed in the computer with all the high rise data and let the computer do the machine learning and generate a design that works. You just basically save yourself 6 months of the design phase and directly go into construction. I think that's the future and that's going to be great.
Fascinating. Great. Rafael?
I think here, whatever I say, if there is something missing here, there's probably already a startup with implementing, executing, or developing that. One important thing that I worked on the global construction technology innovation team, and very close as well to our venture capital last year. And I think it's not the lack of technology that's missing on construction. We mapped it out last year, like only 1,000 startups. So it's not lack of technology. So I think my goal is, and I agree with Damon as well, is 5G is extremely important. This is definitely going to help drive. But for me, what I want to see in 5 years, the increase of productivity being driven by technology, and this is definitely going to be driven. I want to see the adoption of technology. I don't want to see those McKinsey, BCG charts showing that the construction industry is the least digitized industry. I want to see construction being one of the industry that's really adopting technology and probably one of the most innovative industries, because we do have technology. What we need is adoption. That's what I want to see. I don't want to see us on the bottom of those charts about not adopting technology. I really hope that. And second, this will definitely going to drive so many things by attracting people to the trades. We all know that there's a big shortage of workforce. People are not interested anymore to get into this industry. And it's such a fascinating industry with so many opportunities. but younger people are not. I don't know. They're not more attracted to get into trades, and I think technology will definitely help bring those people back, attract more talent, attract more people. Then we're going to change the industry.
Great perspective. Thank you. Well, on that note, I'd like to thank all three of the panelists for sharing their expertise. It was really fascinating. I know I learned a lot, and actually thank the audience for all of their great questions that kept the panel going, and turn things back over to Lori Swanson to wrap up the panel for us.
Thank you so much, Brenna. Thank you, Rafael, Damon, Flora. It really was a fascinating conversation. I just don't understand with all of the kids who love to use Legos that they can't see the connection to a career using technology, which they also love, and Legos. I mean, I just feel like that seems so logical to me, but really learned a lot. Want to thank you again and remind everyone to go to hub88.org and sign up for the holiday event. It's going to be fun, trivia, prizes, and all kinds of other surprises. So hub88.org for that. We should have the sign up. We don't have anything on the site today, but by the end of the week, you should be able to sign up for that event. And if you have any particular questions for the panel, reach out to hello@hub88.org and we will be happy to forward that and or connect you because we are a community of connectors. So thank you so much and have a wonderful rest of your evening and week and month and year.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.